Hey y'all, what's up? This is Caden with you again with Black Finance, where we talk about tips and tricks to help you build wealth and pay off debt. And so today, I'm going to talk to you about an amazing book. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. And this book really helped me to just internalize some strategies in order to pay off wealth. And so I'm going to be sharing a few of the tips and tricks that I've learned from this book. And I hope that it blesses you as much as it blessed me right after this.
I'm living my best life.
Jumping right into the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. And so the book starts off with these two guys that were having an interaction. Let's call them Tyrone and Sean. Tyrone and Sean are talking to each other, and Tyrone comes and asks Sean for a loan. And so Sean is like, man, I can't give you a loan, I'm broke. And Tyrone is like, well, I'm broke too. And both Tyrone and Sean are really smart people. They're highly educated and they're super hard workers. And so they begin to have a conversation where highly educated, if today maybe they had their doctorate or some type of MBA, and they're hardworking, so they're always grinding for their money to take care of their family. And so they're talking with each other, and it's like, so we're hardworking and we're educated. How do we not have $1,000 to our name? And so they were like, okay, let's go ask our friend Caden. Yeah. I just made myself the star of the show. So they went to ask their friend Caden, who goes on to become the richest man in Babylon. And so they got to Caden, and he was like, okay, I'm happy to help you to learn how to build wealth. And they talked about how Caden was not only just someone who becomes the richest man in Babylon, but he was a super generous person, so he was willing to provide those tips and tricks to anyone that would listen. Seriously, this is the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. And so there were like 4 or 5 principles that I really want to talk about today. There are a ton of other principles in the book, so feel free to read the book. I'm sure I'll leave a link in the description. And so the first principle that they talked about is pay yourself first. And so it was recommended in the book that you pay yourself at least 10%. And so the whole idea behind paying yourself first is that you work for a company. And before you even get your check, the government pays themselves first. And so they take out income tax from your check. They know the principle well. And then when you get that money, you get your check. If it's the first of the month, you gotta pay your rent. You may have to pay for your car, your cell phone bill, and what other expenses that you have. And that's how people immediately think about things. Okay, government get theirs, then I gotta pay rent because I need to live. I gotta buy food, gotta pay my cell phone bill, I gotta do this and gotta do that. And by the time they're done, they never have any money. The whole idea is that your whole life you're working, but you're working to pay other people. And although it's technically not your money, it's not really your money because none of it is going to you. And so that's where the first principle comes in. Pay yourself first. Now, the government takes theirs right off the cuff, and I believe in paying God first. And so right after that, make sure you pay yourself first. And so the recommended amount was 10%. My wife and I tried to save at least 25%. You can do your best. That may be starting at 1%. Whatever it is, it's important to develop the habit of paying yourself first. I don't care if it's 25 cents that you think you can sacrifice each month to save. It's about building that habit. Pay yourself first. The second principle, and kind of gonna put somebody on blast, but not really put them on blast. And it's just because I think it's a great example for this particular principle. And this principle is living below your means. And this is not to take away from anyone that is living the paycheck to paycheck or feels that they're doing the best that they can. I know the struggle, and the struggle is real. And so this is not to take a jab at anyone that has that type of lifestyle, but we can always try to live below our means, or further below our means than we're currently living. And this takes, for some people, more sacrifice than others. But it was an amazing concept. I recently posted a video about my worst financial decision, which, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen the decision, it was ultimately buying a $20,000 car. When I got a $10,000 raise from my job and I felt like I had the money to do it. And a lot of us, as soon as we get a raise, just like I did, we go out and buy something really nice and flashy that we want, like a car, for example. And so I posted on Instagram about that, and surprise, surprise, someone sent me a message. And I'm gonna read what they said. Almost verbatim, but so that I don't totally give it away who it is. I'm not gonna say everything. And they said, that's why I only buy cars. Buy more cars, party hard, LOL. Obviously they're joking, kinda, but not really. You can't take money to the grave with you, crying, laughing face. My response, LOL, you can leave it to your children or child. And they wrote, they're all set. I'm living for me, tomorrow's not promised. Sorry for using a pretty Christian term, if anyone doesn't know what this means, but I assume they may have felt a little convicted. I'm sure they'll probably respond to this because they're a pretty bold person and I love them dearly. I'll say it's one of my brothers. I have 6 brothers. You can kind of take a guess which one it is. Love you. Live your best life. And so, but no, it's so important to make sure you're living below your means. And not every raise you get, you have to run out and buy a new car like I did. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me. Love you. The third principle, super key, and this is not in order from the book, but just the third thing that I think is super important, is to make your money work for you. And this is something that Warren Buffett talked about a lot. Don't want to butcher his quote, but it's something like, you know, unless you learn to make money while you sleep, you're gonna work till you die. And unfortunately, a lot of people in our community and a lot of people in my family are like that. And that's part of why I'm even doing these videos, to make sure that the people that I love aren't working till they die. And one of the ways to make sure you're not working till you die is to make sure you have your money work for you. Now, this may seem like a lot of money, but if you can save up $100,000 with a 10% return on that, that is $10,000 you're able to save a year, or that your money is able to make for you each year. That's a lot of money. That's more than most people are able to save. And with the power of compound interest, and I'll probably do a fuller video because a lot of people, including myself at the time, don't really understand how crazy compound interest works. And so if you take that same 10% interest on $100,000 over the course of 10 years, that gives you $250,000. Not $250,000 because you were still saving. You don't have to add anything else. If you just allow that to compound over 10 years, you're gonna end up with $250,000. And so the principle is crazy. If you sacrifice for a little while to save up a nice nest egg, a nice pool of money, and let that money work for you, you can make a whole lot of money. And that's why Warren Buffett says you need to be able to make money while you're sleeping. And so the final principle that I'm going to talk about today is to guard your money. If you know me, you know one of the things that I love more than anything is giving. But it's so important to guard your money. This means don't make bad investments, and don't lend to people that you know that may not be able to pay you back. For several reasons. First, you will absolutely destroy friendships and family relationships by lending money to people when they can't pay you back. Because whether you think you love them or not, or you have a super deep relationship, money has a way of changing people's hearts and minds. And so you super nice person lending your family money, a lot of money, and they're unable to pay you back, you may start resenting them, and you don't want to create that relationship. And you may even have them start not wanting to interact with you because they feel bad about not being able to pay you back, so they don't want to see you. And that's not even to say that you don't lend your family money, because I think it's important to build as a community, and there's different ways to go about doing that, but make sure you do it in a way that's not going to destroy your relationship. And if you know someone doesn't have the ability to necessarily pay you back, maybe it's best to just give them the money. When I lend people money, there's always two things that I do before. One, I make up my mind that I'm willing to take whatever I'm lending you as a loss. And two, if I lend you money and you don't pay me back, I just never lend you money. And then so I always make sure to lend an amount that I don't feel like so bad about that I can't talk to you forever. And so if I lend you anything under $500, it's like, okay, whatever, but I will never lend you money again. So I hope this video was helpful for you. I know I really enjoy reading this book, The Richest Man in Babylon. It's actually a really short read, so I definitely recommend it. Awesome. I hope you enjoyed the video. You know, this is a book that I highly recommend. I'm gonna leave a link below so you can check it out and potentially purchase it. I certainly recommend you do that. I'll probably leave links to some additional books on personal finance that I personally found to be beneficial, and I hope that bless you. I mean, if you found this video to be helpful, let me know. If there are any tips, if you read the book before and there are tips that you think that I should have included, feel free to leave those in the comments. If you have any general tips for building wealth, feel free to leave that in the comments. Let me know how you're doing with your journey, and like I said, I hope this is helping you. Remember, live your best life. Thank you for watching this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe. The subscribe button should be somewhere up here. And then after you do that, make sure you hit the bell. That's how you get notifications about new things that I'm posting.